What's going on, fellas? So I basically want to put you guys on some game. You know, I know a lot of times we like to read the books that are popular, you know, like 48 Laws of Power, Atomic Habits, you know, some of the books that we hear about a lot. But I think I stumbled across the gem, and it's called The 38 Letters from J.D. Rockefeller to His Son. I'm only on the 6th chapter, but even with me being on the 6th chapter, it's not a big read. It's not a big read at all. But even with me being on the 6th chapter, it's so much game in here. Basically, if you don't know who J.D. Rockefeller is, he's first American billionaire, Standard Oil Company, ran the oil industry for years. You know, other accomplishments, I don't want to downplay it. Do your own research. This book includes letters, right? Each chapter is a letter to his son, basically about how, you know, he became the first billionaire and some of the lessons that he learned and how he kind of dominated not only the oil industry, but, you know, in business. The importance of being organized, the importance of knowing when to strike during war and when to get aggressive with enemies, right? He talks about being aggressive with your dreams, right? And how to make them a reality. One specific chapter that I do want to touch on is chapter 4, where he spoke about procrastination. And the reason I want to address this chapter is because, boy, procrastination is one of the things that slowed me down in the past. And even to this day, you know, procrastination is something that I fight with every day. It's not as extreme as it used to be. Like some days I'll wake up and I'll sit in the bed for an hour or two, you know, scrolling on social media, procrastinating, going to the gym and things like that. Nowadays it's much smaller. Like, you know, if I need to do something, you know, I might wait a couple minutes or whatever the case may be, but it's definitely not as extreme as it used to be. But procrastination is definitely one of those silent killers that we don't necessarily realize we're doing it until years later on down the line. The thing about the 4th chapter, it's called Do It Now. Opportunity comes from opportunity. So basically I'm gonna break down 8 lies and laws about procrastination that I learned about in chapter number 4. And the thing is, fellas, basically how he started it off was, most people think success comes from intelligence, right? Most people think that success comes from talent. Most people think success comes from, you know, the person who's the smartest or the person with the best plan to win. But if that was true, then every person with a business idea would be successful, right? Every person with a business idea would be rich. Every person with a gym membership would be in shape. Every person that spoke about changing their life would eventually change it. But yet that's not what happens. We have a lot of people that's talking and not enough people that's doing. And one of my favorite Drake quotes is, when all said is done, more is always said than done. Because a lot of times, a lot of us, we like talking about it, but we don't like taking action. The graveyard is full of unrealized potential. There's a lot of people who had brilliant ideas, people who had talent, people who had opportunities, people who had dreams, and none of that mattered because they never acted on it. One thing that J.D. Rockefeller said is, success doesn't go to the person who knows the most. It belongs to the person who moves. And basically, fellas, what that means is the quickest way on your feet is to get off your ass. And if you develop the habit of acting immediately instead of just thinking about it, you'll be surprised with the amount of people that you've already separated yourself from. So without further ado, fellas, let's go ahead and get to this whiteboard. All right, fellas, like always, I hope you guys can see it, but this is how we're gonna break it down. Lesson number 1 is ideas are cheap. Let me ask you guys a question. How many people have you met, right, that say they're gonna start a business, right? Or say they're gonna write a book, that say they're gonna get in shape, that say they're gonna start investing, that say they're gonna start a YouTube channel. Now ask yourself, after they say that, how many people actually do it? Not many, right? Because ideas are cheap, right? It's easy to talk about something because everybody has an idea, everybody has a dream, everybody has a plan. But, right, everybody can do that, but what's rare is the execution. One action is worth more than 1,000 ideas. The world doesn't reward intention. The world rewards execution. You don't get paid for what you plan to do. You get paid for what you actually do and what you actually get done. And here's where most people lose, because thinking feels productive, right? Feeling motivated feels productive. Planning something feels productive. Research, you know, doing your research, that feels productive. Talking about it feels productive. But none of those things will actually move your life forward until you actually take action. So number 1, ideas are cheap. Stop talking about it and start taking action. Number 2 piggybacks off number 1, action creates wisdom. One of the biggest traps today is information addiction. Fellas, I remember when I used to wake up, open my computer, get on YouTube, watch motivational videos all day. Next thing you know, 30 minutes pass, an hour pass, 2 hours pass, and I felt like I did something, right? I felt good because I felt motivated. But the tricky thing about motivation is that it always makes you feel like you're moving forward when you're actually not, right? You're just intaking information, and motivation is just a feeling and it's only temporary and it doesn't last forever, which is why we need to rely on our systems. But we'll get to that. But fellas, we live in a world where knowledge is available instantly. You need fitness advice, you have access to 1,000 videos. You need business advice, you got access to 1,000 podcasts. You need relationship advice, you have access to 1,000 books. Fellas, the problem isn't the lack of information. Information is easy to get. The problem is people confuse knowing with actually doing. Some people watch fitness videos every day and never train. Some people watch a course. Some people get courses after courses after courses and never execute. And don't get me wrong, fellas, I'm not downplaying knowledge, because knowledge is power, but it's only power when it's combined with action. Think about it, fellas. Would you rather have a dude who read 100 books about boxing, or would you rather have a dude who's been in the ring training for 100 days? Would you rather hire somebody who studied about leadership, or would you rather hire someone who's actually led people? Because when you actually put things into action, you gain that experience, and that experience gives you wisdom. So no, fellas, just knowing the information isn't enough. You need to apply it. That's the only way the world was going to reward you, if you apply that knowledge that you know. Lesson number 3, fear loves planning. Right? And it's kind of piggybacks off of number 2. The reason why most people stay stuck isn't because they lazy, fellas. It's because they're afraid. They're afraid of failing. They're afraid of looking stupid. They're afraid of being embarrassed by their friends or you know, their family members. They're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of jumping in the water without knowing how deep it is, that uncertainty. So instead of acting, they prepare. They prepare more, they prepare again. They keep preparing. And when I say preparing, I mean, instead of just starting a business and gaining experience as you grow, you want to keep doing research every day, keep doing research. And the thing about information, it doesn't stop. So if you feel as though that you're not going to start something until you know all of the information, you're never going to start it, because information is endless. Fellas, I started my rental car business. I bought a rental car course from Pushman Mitch, successful rental car dude back in Atlanta, right? He probably the best person that could really teach you, right? I bought one of his courses and I started my rental car business. Fellas, even when I started my business, there were a lot of things that went on in the rental car business that I had in my fleet that wasn't in the course. And the thing is, I had to learn them as I had to learn these things as I was growing. But if I would have waited till I knew everything, I would have never started the business, because information, for one, is endless because it's changing all the time. But we have people who want to start businesses that say, oh, I'm gonna start next month, or maybe I just need one more certification, or I just need to read one more book. I need to take one more course. I just need to see one more sign. And before you know it, years have passed and they missed their opportunity to start the business when it was booming. Because fellas, if we're going to keep it real, all preparation is, after a certain point of time, just becomes procrastination. They just try to sprinkle something on there to make it sound nice. But if you spending months and years preparing for something, you're just procrastinating on it, because the best way to gain experience and knowledge is to actually do it. Put in the reps. A lot of people just saying they're preparing for something just to convince themselves that they're making progress, or to make it sound like they're getting closer to something to other people, but that's not the case at all. In reality, you're just standing still. The next lesson, fellas, is there's no perfect time. And this right here might be the most important lesson in the entire chapter. The perfect time is a myth. People wait for perfect conditions. Those conditions never arrive. People wait for a perfect opportunity. Those opportunities never come. Think about every major decision you've made in your life, right? Whether it was applying for college, or applying for a job, starting something new. We could even use the example that I just gave y'all about me starting my rental car business. Every major decision that you've made in your life, fellas, were you completely ready? Like, were you 100% ready for what you jumped into? I know I wasn't. Let me ask you another question. Were all the conditions perfect? Did you know exactly how things would turn out? Probably not, because life doesn't work that way. One thing that Rockefeller said in this chapter is, no matter how detailed the plan is, we cannot accurately predict the final outcome. And that's the reality. You can plan all you want, you can prepare all you want, you can study all you want, but eventually you're gonna have to move. Like me, when I started my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't know how it would work out, right? I didn't know how much my business was gonna make. I didn't know my business was gonna be successful, right? When you're an athlete, right, and you're a kid, right? When you're a kid and you're waking up before school and you're going to the park with your dad and you putting up shots and free throws and shooting layups, right, getting them extra reps in, you don't know if all this training is gonna pay off. You don't know that you're gonna win the 2026 NBA Finals and become MVP. As a content creator, when I decided to make my YouTube channel, I didn't know that I was gonna get subscribers. I didn't know I was gonna get views. Nobody truly knows, but I don't wanna lose track that there's no perfect time, but I kind of want to piggyback off this and say it's a mindset thing. I think, like we said in number 3, a lot of y'all get in y'all own head and fear takes over. And I think a lot of y'all give a fuck what other people think. But the thing is, fellas, you can't call yourself a him-tier man if you're not confident, and you gotta be fearless of anything. You gotta know however anything turns out, you're gonna be good, because you're either gonna find a way or you're gonna make a way. Because the thing is, being fearless and having courage isn't certainty. Courage is action despite the uncertainty. Lesson number 5. Passivity breeds mediocrity. And how I learned this in this chapter is Rockefeller repeatedly attacks passiveness. And honestly, he's right, because passive people, they wait, but active people, they create. Passive people hope, active people take action. Passive people react, active people initiate, right? Fellas, think of your own life. How many opportunities do you honestly think you've lost because you've waited too long? The business you never started, the investment you never made. I hear people talk about it all the time when Bitcoin first came out, and people who, you know, wish they invested in Bitcoin when it first came out, how much money they would have right now. But the thing is, they're regretting it because they waited so long. What about that job that you never applied for and that position got filled up? That opportunity didn't disappear because you weren't capable, fellas. It disappeared because you waited too long. Meanwhile, while you're playing, someone way less talented than you took action first and beat you to it. And they went on ahead and got the reward, not because they're smarter, not because they were better, it's because they acted. Action creates opportunities that passive people never see, because passive people are too busy being scared. This one right here, if you've been a follower of the channel, you already know this, right? We've covered this in different books, especially the Atomic Habits. But habits shape your destiny, fellas. One of the most powerful lines in the chapter, Rockefeller says, bad habits can dictate us and determine success or failure. It's easy to develop, but it is difficult to serve. Good habits are difficult to develop, but they are easy to maintain. Get rid of the habit of being distracted. Be a person of initiative. Be courageous in doing things, and don't wait until everything is ready. So let's talk about when he says bad habits are easy to develop but difficult to serve, and good habits are difficult to develop but easy to maintain. Let's talk about that, fellas. Like, think about it. Sleeping is easy. Being disciplined is hard. Eating junk food is easy. Eating clean is hard. Scrolling social media is easy. Building skills is hard. But eventually the tables turn. The disciplined man, he wakes up automatically. The trained athlete enjoys training. The reader enjoys reading. The investor enjoys investing. The entrepreneur enjoys building, right? What once was difficult, after repeated through habits, becomes your identity. And those hard tasks, which they're not hard, fellas, they're just new. We're just gonna say they're hard for the sake of the quote. But when you do those hard tasks repeatedly, they become your identity, and then they become the norm for you, right? I remember when I first started going to the gym, I didn't like the gym, right? But once I started going every day and it became my routine, and I started seeing the results, I started getting the compliments, I started seeing my body change and feeling my body change, and looking in the mirror and feeling more confident, it became the norm for me. Now, if I miss a day at the gym, I feel like I had a bad day. And that's why habits matter, because they shape you as a person. They create your identity. Success isn't just one giant decision. It's small little daily decisions repeated over and over again. So every day you have two choices. Either you strengthen your discipline or you strengthen your excuses. But you can't do both. Let's get to the next topic. Create opportunities, right? A lot of people wait, right? They kind of wait for things to fall in their lap. But one thing that J.D. Rockefeller said in this chapter is opportunity creates opportunities. Most people think opportunities just appear first and then action just follows. But reality is opposite, fellas. Action is supposed to come first, and then the opportunity follows. The first YouTube video leads to the next opportunity. The first business idea that you take action on leads to the next opportunity. The first networking event leads to the next opportunity. You don't discover your future just sitting still, fellas. You discover it while moving. And that's why I kind of hate when people look at successful people and say, oh, they got lucky, they got lucky. But in reality, you think they got lucky, but behind the scenes, they were taking action. They were working on themselves. They were building their habits. And while they were busy getting active, that activity was creating opportunities that those passive people and those inactive people never seen. Last but not least, fellas, do it now. This kind of sums everything up, you know, especially when we talk about not waiting on opportunities. You know, the time is never going to be right. There is no perfect time. There's no shortage of ideas. There's no shortage on dreams. There's no shortage on people talking. What's rare is action. And that's what J.D. Rockefeller was hammering in this chapter. And decades later, that fact still holds true. But the facts still remain the same, fellas. If we don't take action, if we don't start moving, nothing will happen for us. Right now, there's hundreds of people saying, we're gonna start Monday. We're gonna start on the 1st of the month. We're gonna start next year. We're gonna start January 1st. And then 10 years later, they find themselves doing the same thing because they got stuck in a hypnotic rhythm. Fellas, the people who win aren't always the smartest. They're not always the most talented. They're not always the most connected. They're just the people simply willing to jump in the field before they feel ready. The people that's willing to move while others hesitate. The people who are willing to act while others just think. People that's willing to fail and learn from their failures while other people are waiting and worrying about how others are gonna perceive their failures. All in all, fellas, Rockefeller's message in the 4th chapter is simple. Do it now. Not next week, not next month, not when the conditions improve, not when you finally build confidence, not when everything is perfect. Do whatever you want to do right now. Because the man who acts today will always be ahead of the man who plans tomorrow. A year from now, your life won't be determined from what you intended to do. It will be determined from what you actually did. So ask yourself, what have you been delaying, fellas? What conversations have you been avoiding? What goal have you been postponing? What opportunity have you been waiting to pursue? And more importantly, ask yourself this. What would happen if you started today? If you felt this video, fellas, and this video helped you or hit you in any way, don't let it become another video that you just watched and forgot about. Comment below one goal that you've been procrastinating on. And what's the first action that you're gonna take within the next 24 hours to work towards that goal? Because fellas, the reason that I journal every day is because writing something down creates that accountability. Fellas, I hope you was taking notes. And just like always, if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on all notifications so when I drop, you guys get notified. And if you're serious about becoming him, right? If you're serious about becoming a man of action and not excuses, make sure y'all follow me on all platforms. I'm gonna have all my handles below. Feel free to shoot me an email. And if you think you're ready to join Him to University and surround yourself around men who execute, stay disciplined, and hold each other accountable, then click the link in the description below, book a call, and we'll see if you're a good fit. But fellas, once you sign your name on that dotted line and you commit to this journey, understand it's not just you anymore. It's us. It's a brotherhood. I'm gonna be honest with you, fellas. I never said it was easy. Is it possible? Yes. Is it easy? No. Is it simple? Yes. Is it easy? No. But we have no more time to waste, fellas. It's time to perform.